Big Questions with the Dead Milkmen.
Hey, so this week's big questions are actually questions from you, the viewer. We haven't done one of these in a while, and I pulled some questions out of the past bunch of videos, and I'm going to read out, and we'll offer our answers in 2 cents as best we can. We might not get to all of them tonight. The first question comes from Jay Sargent. He says, speaking of making music, have any of you played around with the Orba yet? I can go first and just say that I did watch Nick Bat from Sonic State's review of the Orba, which was very interesting. It looks like it's still being baked in the oven a little bit. But the one thing that did interest me was I have a soft synth for my computer called Pigments made by Arturia, which I highly recommend. And it has what's called MPE abilities, which is like an enhanced sort of touch receptor code. And this Orba apparently offers that for a really reasonable price. So it might be worth keeping an eye on for future use. That's my comment.
Yeah, I also saw it on Sonic Talk with Nick Bat. And I thought, I got fascinated by it. What I did was I started thinking about it a lot, which I always do. Some of the Sonic Talk sticks in my head. And I thought, here is like, you probably can't write a song on it with like regular song structure. You couldn't do like chorus, intro. But first of all, no one says you have to do that. And secondly, Enola Gay has no chorus. It's one of my favorite songs. So what I thought you could do is, if you're a young person or even an old person and you want to get into music, into a band, get one of those and get what's called a Whale. We'll give you a link to the Whale, which is this weird ambient noise making thing, and maybe get some like secondhand effects pedals. So you're looking at about $400, and just find a band and say, hey, can I be your Brian Eno? In other words, can I be like Brian was in Roxy Music? He didn't know how to work that EMS, but he just made weird sounds. I bet you if you took like a rockabilly band and you dropped a guy in with this crap, it would be you would own the music industry. Okay. Yes, I'm heavily suggesting it's a great, and it would be an interesting thing. So I thought when I saw that, I've been thinking about like a lot of future of music, how it's going to change. And I thought some guy with just Enoing it up could have a good time.
Joe or Dan?
I have not seen one or played with one yet.
Okay.
I haven't played with one, but I looked it up because I was curious, and it looks pretty cool. You know what it reminded me of? That thing that you gave me, Rodney, the stylophone thing with the beat.
Oh, I thought you meant the other thing I gave you, the sword in your lip.
That's for the next big question. My friend Tom gave me the keyboard stylophone years ago, and I think we used that on one of the songs. Oh shit! It was the sanitary time. So.
Oh yeah.
See, I'm talking about stylophone. Anyway,
all right,
I haven't used it. I'd like to.
All right, so thank you, Jay Sargent, for that question. The next one is from a viewer called P for Life. Saying, why would you eat steakums when you have gyms? I can probably safely say that the last actual steak sandwich I ever had was from Jim's, and that's probably about at least 10 years ago. I've never tried, what are the two down Geno's, and what's the other one across the street?
Pat's.
Oh, Pat's.
Yeah, I've never actually had a steak from either of those places. So, and I haven't had steakum since I was about 10.
First of all, P for Life, thanks for making me think about the abysmal Oprah Visits Philadelphia episode of the Oprah Show. Let's go to Pat's. Let's go to Geno's. How about you all just go to hell? All right. I live in South Philadelphia where we have I don't really eat meat, but we have a plethora of places that will make you incredible cheesesteaks. But whenever people are in town and they demand one, I take them to Jim's. But I use Steakums because people are always getting busted for shoplifting Steakums. I don't know why.
They're easy to steal.
I must confess, though, when we talked about it in the show a couple weeks back or whenever, I thought about looking for them at the supermarket, giving them a try again.
Well, sometimes you just don't want to go out. And you can cook them at home. That's the only reason.
Good answer. I'm going to quote Chris Siegel on this one and say, steak, no thanks. I would eat steakums, I don't care, but I definitely and of the cheesesteak places, I prefer Jim's, definitely.
All right. This next question is a little bit more involved and might take up a little more time. This is from Seth Teague, or Teague, I think. He says, "Hey guys, the last 2 episodes have been pretty engaging. So many comments have been on my mind. One I've wondered about since this all started: what Philly bands were influential on you, or were you particularly fond of over the years? I grew up in the area and spent most of my high school weekends at Cabbage Collective, so no shortage of early 90s Philly punk bands here. But what about the Fabulous Fondas, FOD, Homo Picnic, and more? Could you discuss more, and what do you like presently or last couple of years? I was a contemporary of EDO, I know of them, National Wrecking Company, Stinkin' Lizaveta, who are awesome, and 2.5 Children. These are all from like 1994, I think. And then he asks about venues in Philly back in the day. He wants to know about all these things. Again, I'll just drop in that I think my favorite venue, which sadly is no more, was the Troc. I mean, so many great shows we got to play there, and also I saw some great shows there. Just a really great venue. It's really sad that it's not around anymore. But yeah, we used to play with the Fabulous Fondas all the time, and FOD, of course, who are still playing shows and kicking ass. And Homo Picnic, actually, Rich from Homo Picnic was our roommate for a while in West Philly. So we're good pals with those guys too. Rodney, I think you said you knew what Doug Bennett was up to these days. I haven't seen him.
Well, Doug Bennett had been a DJ for a while under the name of DJ something Islam. Yeah, but he got super famous in the DJ world.
Okay. But yeah, we had some good friends and good bands back in the day. Yeah, I know some folks in EDO, and Stinkin' Lizaveta are awesome. So
I think the bands that most influenced us, or at least for me and Joe in the early days, were Stickmen. Stickmen were the band that changed everything. Stickmen may possibly be the greatest band ever to come out of Philly. That was the band. Some people have seen me do a Pete Baker impersonation. This was the guy I really wanted to be when I was younger. Just amazing. Just a very interesting no-wave band that has some incredible songs like Jampire and Mystery Party. So they were fantastic. Decontrol, who were around when we were young, and again, one of the bands that we really looked up to. Musicianship, songwriting were incredible. And there was a band called Das Yahoos, and I stole so much from their singer, Mick Cancer. So those are the bands that influenced us. He did ask about, I think at one point, about bands that were new Philly bands. And just there are great bands, of course, like Live Non Evil, been around for a while. There's a band called Vixen 77, who are amazing. But my big props go to Void Vision. Void Vision is sort of the band of the moment. It's a one sort of person act. Absolutely incredible. John Fox from Ultravox actually turned up at a Void Vision show in England with a Void Vision album. So when John Fox asks you to sign something, that's it. Void Vision have a track on the new Bestial Mouths remix album. It's called Thousandneedles. I hear there's some Philly representation on it, but I think the Void Vision are going to get the video for that, which I definitely owe to that young lady. And I hear Mad Frost because it incredible band. See Void Vision live.
Yes, the Stickmen, I agree, is probably the most influential early punk Philly band. The music for the song Lucky was my failed attempt to try to write something Stickmen-ish. It didn't really come out like that. I don't even know how they do what they do. Although I think the Ronald Reagan Killed the Black Dahlia sounds Stickmen-ish in retrospect. I don't know if Rodney was attempting that on
It's a direct ripoff.
FOD, of course, I love seeing them. I don't have any direct musical influences there, but Electric Love Muffin were one that I liked. I don't know if I speak for the rest of the band, but the music for the song Take Me Apart was kind of influenced by that style. So yeah, I liked a lot of Philly bands. I liked the Ambush Bugs, Fabulous Fondas, all the bands we played with. Oh, and venues. Yeah, I agree with the Troc. Love Hall was kind of fun. The Long March, was it called? I forget.
I never went to a show at Long March.
Oh, well, of course, the famous Elks Club, where I first saw the Stickmen.
Dan?
So yeah, it's interesting to think that I had a different time period. I was coming up through that, but the FOD is the connector because I was, a teenager going to see FOD and like Plow United, Violent Society, and all those bands because that was what there was, and that was influential to me in the sense that I was like, oh, I can start a band too because I saw a bunch of these people do it. And then other, bands like Need New Body and stuff that just kind of like blew the doors off of everything else I'd heard, and I was like, wow, these guys are like nothing else. But yeah, of course, you guys. That was my first real show was you guys in '94. But yeah, it is funny. FOD like was before, is now, and will be, and shall
forever. FOD forever. Okay. The next question comes from an old friend of Rodney's, who I remember. Norman Large, yes. Nice seeing your faces again, guys. It's me, Norman, from SLC, now living in Marietta, Ohio. I briefly lived in Philly as a roommate of Rodney's. Was that too much explanation? Anyway, question. Who's your favorite anti-hero? I would probably, I guess I'll choose it. It's pretty an easy one, but I guess Han Solo from the Star Wars franchise. He's, he does good. He's actually pretty level, but he has some rough edges that can rub people the wrong way sometimes.
Wait, who was that?
Han Solo.
He shot
Han
first,
Solo.
right? Didn't he?
What's that?
He shot first.
Yeah, I know.
He certainly did.
First of all, if your name is Norman and you come from Salt Lake City, people will call you Norman the Mormon. All right. And Norman is a great guy. I just want to say he's a fantastic person, and I really did enjoy having him as a roommate. So my favorite anti-hero, there's only one answer to this. Bobby from 5 Easy Pieces. I mean, he's such a horrible bastard. And you can't help but love him. The whole, all right, now what do you do? What about the lettuce? Hold it between your knees. I mean, you just can't not. It's just, you wouldn't want to be in a room with him. You wouldn't want to know him. He's despicable. He plays the piano part. It's beautiful. I played it with no feeling. I mean, he to me, he's like the archetypal anti-hero.
I'm going to go with the Incredible Hulk. And Arnold, was it Arnold Schwarzenegger? I forget. I don't know.
No, Lou Ferrigno.
Lou Ferrigno. I always get these guys confused.
Yeah,
Lou Ferrigno. I like this shade of green.
Did have a fetching green color, didn't he?
Won't you come home, Bill Bixby? Won't you come home?
Oh yeah, and the courtship of Eddie's father guy.
You leave Brandon Cruz out of this.
Bill Bixby.
Bill Bixby was the other when he wasn't incredible. Yeah.
The unincredible Hulk. The credible Hulk. Is that you're done, Joe?
I'm done.
All right. It shows D.B. Cooper, and it just came to me as soon as I saw the question. I was fascinated. A couple years ago, I read a book about him or her, and I was completely fascinated about it. And the book never tells you, obviously, who it is. So I'm not even going to go into it because it would take too long. But we'll put a link to where you can read about D.B. Cooper. Basically, jumped out of a plane with tons of money, and nobody ever saw him again, or nobody could describe what he looked like, really.
Dan, if you want, I can send you a link, and we can put it in the thing. the worst song in the world is this weird country western band's tribute to D.B. Cooper. It's 9 minutes long, and it is literally like having someone take a ballpoint hammer and just tap you in the testicles for a while. I'm gonna search it out now while we're talking.
Okay, good one, good answers. Rick McEachers asks, I would like to know what the Dead Milkmen think about getting older. I'm pretty okay with it. I'm fine. At my age, I confess I'm starting to wonder what the hell I'm going to do when I retire, but I'm not even sure when that's going to be. These days, you have to work longer and longer. You can't really retire as early as you used to.
You don't have to retire.
That's true. I guess I could just keep working as long as I'm enjoying what I'm doing. So that's my answer. Rodney, you said you were going to live forever. You're not really growing.
Yeah, well, that's the other one thing. The other thing is you're not getting older, you're getting newer. Blixa Barfield pointed this out one time. It's been a thing that I'm hanging on to. I always think about, which is you don't say, oh, the young me and the old me. You say the old me and the new me. Personally, I like the new me a lot better than the old me. The old me was this horrible asshole. The new me is less of an asshole. So I'm just saying that you also, the young me didn't know about Miriam Stone, the Ballad of D.B. Cooper, which you are all going to suffer from and blame Dan. But the new me knows about that.
I highly recommend it. I think everyone should get older. It really, I mean, you get better at things and you get less anxious, and I don't know. There are downsides because you might get achier, but I think that's also an upside in a way. The more pain you have.
Okay. Getting what do I think about getting older? What? Older cheese? I actually like it. I have for a while, and I'm not sure what the other option is, so I'm gonna go with it.
You don't have much choice in the matter, do you?
Yeah. I mean, technically we do, but you know.
Yeah, you could get dead and not get older at all.
Yeah.
Yep, Joe, you're right.
Real pick me up.
Please don't do that, anybody.
Yeah, don't do that.
Well, let's move on to the next question.
Sometimes you have no choice in the matter.
The next question comes from our biggest fan, Jay Sargent again. He must be like,
What?
I don't know, he's just full of
Is
questions.
he allowed to do that?
Yeah, sure. He says, this is all well and good, but are there any questions you never want to answer to? Like, how many times have spiders crawl on you? Or have you ever strolled past a serial killer? Or does Ted Cruz's beard smell as bad as it looks like it does? I try not to think about Ted Cruz too much, other than things I can't really say. But I kind of do like the question about have I ever strolled past a serial killer. So I often wonder if when I walk into like a large store, I wonder if there's anybody in the store who's killed someone before.
I've often wondered if I've been the last person that somebody has seen before they died.
Bro, I say yes.
Before they what?
Before they died, like a stranger. Like when I worked at Blockbuster, I would get so bored, I would be like, oh my God. And somebody would leave, like an old person, I'd be like, I wonder if that person just like died. And I was like,
You know, there are no questions that I would not want the answer to. People say like, oh, you wouldn't want to know what day you're going to die on. Yes, I would, because it would free up my calendar for that day. You know what I'm saying? Let's have lunch. Let's not. I don't know if you guys ever read, this is a great book. It's Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. It's Good Omens, but it's the nice and accurate prophecies of Agnes Nutter, which it's the only prophecies that are 100% accurate. So it's like on Tuesday, this will happen. If I would love to have that. people like, did you get Uncle Henry a Christmas present? I'm like, no need to. He's not going to make it. So I would like to, I would like to know everything. Joe?
I've never wondered. Maybe now I will. I don't know.
What was the question?
Well,
Any question I wouldn't want to answer?
you'd never want an answer to a question that you'd never want an answer to.
This one.
Okay.
No, there's no question.
Well, Dan, I'm going to ask you a question because it's directed specifically at you. It's from the Dennis Ball Show. He says, Dan, I wonder if you would serve as a lighting consultant on my upcoming film, The Pope of Pope Lick.
Yeah, I gave it some thought, and I will consult him or it.
Well, it's the Dennis Ball Show. I guess it's an
ball.
entity that roams the earth.
It's like a puppet show, yeah.
Presumably that's a male, so I'll say I'll consult him on the lighting. I mean, I can't say enough about that lamp. I would say, creepy underlighting is good. Like where you're like, or just, make it, as the kids say, lit as fuck.
Your kids say that?
All the time.
Probably not in the house, at least.
Oh.
Exactly. There you go.
Dan, do you think that the Pope Lick monster is overrated and Indrid Cold is underrated? Do that show with cryptids, which ones are overrated and which ones are underrated?
I find it interesting that there are several Goatman stories.
Yes.
And they're different.
There are
Anyway, that's
several
all
bunny
other.
men,
Yeah, we shouldn't go there. I just brought it because Pope Lick. That's everybody knows that's what Pope Lick. Right.
Kevin Paul asked me a question. He said, Dean, what brand was that first pocket knife, the one with the blade for breaking down boxes? It is a Leatherman free 4K EDC. It's described as a multi-tool, but it has these tools on it, and this tool in particular is technically, it's like a screwdriver, and it's got a blade on one side, so you can like slice boxes open. And those, those plastic bubble packages that are driving you nuts and you can't open them, this will just rip right through those. So it's a Leatherman free 4K EDC.
Yeah, as seen in the movie Marathon Man. There's a safe.
Yeah, right. Okay, we have two more questions. Let's see if we can get through them. Nicholas DeWells asks, is punk dead, or was it ever alive? Do we consider ourselves a punk band? What are the main ideas or characteristics that make something punk? I've kind of edited his question a little bit. Nicholas, I would say we are a quote unquote punk band, I guess. I guess we at least started out that way. I think the attitude that we have taken in terms of how we write music, we're not locked into any kind of style or genre. Like if Rodney came to the band and said, we're going to do a madrigal on the next record, we'd probably say, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. Let's do it. So but I think that, I don't think punk's dead, punk in quotes. I do think that we at least started out as a quote unquote punk band, but the punk attitude is the DIY ethos as far as I'm concerned. And so we just do whatever we want, and that has worked pretty well for us. So I don't see, at least myself, changing that attitude.
I would say that punk's not dead, but Rush Limbaugh is. And I really wanted to call the Next Dead Milkmen album that because somebody spray painted it on a piece of wood in like University City and put it up like a sign. And I tested it on Twitter and it did really well. So that's my answer. Punk's not dead, but Rush Limbaugh is.
It's not dead to me, but I think it depends on the listener or the perceiver or the beholder, whether it's dead or not to them. I always wonder what does that mean anyway? Dead? I guess it means it's ineffective, or it no longer holds any value for the person.
Well, maybe it's like, the initial punks were kicking against the industry. It's like everything's now corporate.
Yeah, what are the ethos Well,
capitalist crap.
I guess we can argue that.
Yeah.
I just think that's a load of shit.
There you have it, folks.
It's really the music and the attitude. Iggy Pop was punk. Is still punk.
And
I think in some ways it's not dead because it wasn't really born. I think it was like always this attitude that kind of was like underlying, like since the beginning of time, people have had that. And I think it got named punk in the 70s. And I think music was a really good and easy venue for people to like show it off, I guess. And like it became a part of like style and culture and fashion and stuff. But I guarantee there were people back in like medieval times that like did crazy shit like with their lyre or whatever, and then got like chased and like hunted down and like maybe, you know, thrown into like a dragon's lair or something.
okay. Okay, last question from Jason S. And we kind of talked about Mr. Bungle and before, but he says, I have a question. Could the Dead Milkmen share their thoughts or feelings about Mr. Bungle and everything that comes from Mr. Bungle so far? Mr. Bungle adores the Dead Milkmen. I don't know how he knows that for sure. Dan, I know you talked about Mr. Bungle in the past show. I think Mr. Bungle are pretty cool, and just Mike Patton's attitude, I guess you could say, is pretty punk because he seems to do whatever the fuck he wants to. And he's done all kinds of weird stuff, and he's tried all different kinds of music. I was reading, to be honest, I was reading the Wikipedia page about his interviews with the press and how he used to screw around with answering questions and stuff, which reminded me a lot of the kind of things that we used to do back in the early days, making up stories and telling little
Handcuffing yourself to a host.
So yeah, so I think Mr. Bungle are cool. I think Mike Patton's cool. He's done a lot of really cool stuff over the years. Interesting music, interesting style. Not afraid to try different things. So that's my feeling.
Chuck Mosley, who was the first singer for Faith No More, had a fantastic he's the late Chuck Mosley, unfortunately he died recently. He had a fantastic project called Primitive Race. Absolutely great band. I am 1 million times more capable of talking about Primitive Race than I am about Mr. Bungle, despite 30 years of people telling me, you've got to check out Mr. Bungle. Not that I have anything against Mr. Bungle. I think it's the new album, which is that Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny, I think it is a very interesting concept to take something that you did in the 80s and then, put the people on it that you wanted to have on it. It's great to see Grizzly Adams getting his props in a song, but I've just never spent enough time. So if we ever do a Primitive Race, episode, I'm your guy to go to for that. But as for Mr. Bungle, I know of them. I've been hearing their stuff for years, but I just never really took the deep dive.
I like Mr. Bungle. I like their 90s studio albums, Mr. Bungle, Disco Volante, California. I really like that one a lot. I like, I've seen them play. I guess we've all seen them play. I also saw them at the Troc, which was a great show. I saw the Secret Chiefs 3, and I like them too. That's an outshoot of Mr. Bungle somehow. I like Ipecac Records stuff. So yeah, I like that stuff.
Yeah, I was a pretty big fan of Mr. Bungle. I saw them and Secret Chiefs 3 and Phantomus, which was an interesting project with Mike Patton and Buzz from Melvins and Dave Lombardo. And the bass player of Mr. Bungle, Trevor Dunn, who's really good. Yeah, I just always like that their 3 albums are completely different from each other. Again, that was something that always I was attracted to, like your music, or the stuff without me, because you know, it could be like a reggae song or something, and then with Mr. Bungle, it would be something, and then suddenly it would be like thrash and like really scary, and then it would be like nice and pleasant. They like took it to another level. It was kind of like horrifying. So that was what I was trying to do.
And that brings us to the end of the questions.
The first thing I'd like to change is, and for the episode about fictional characters who are shit at their jobs, I said Batman, worse than Batman, the Three Musketeers. Why? They're called the Three Musketeers, but you picture them carrying swords. They're just, you know, if your job is musketeer, you should be pictured carrying a fucking musket, okay? Not swords. You don't see Dirty Harry with a slingshot. Okay, so that's the first one, all right? Three Musketeers, worst of their job. They're not even known for the muskets. The other one would be, for underrated band, I'd like to give a props out to a band called Propaganda. They were a German synth pop band from the 80s. There was 2 guys and 2 women. They were called, so a lot of people call them ABBA in Hell. But what happened was they had a very interesting sort of early industrial type sound. Quincy Jones wanted to, they had an album called, I think, The Secret Wish, and Quincy Jones wanted to license it in America. He didn't, but if you listen to The Secret Wish and you listen to Thriller, the sounds are very much the same. So without Propaganda, there would have probably been no Thriller, which, you know, but then there would probably been no Neverland Ranch and Jesus Juice and Leapfrog Night. So, you know, take it as it is.
Joe?
Silly Love Songs is actually not that bad of a song. I'm gonna say.
Any final words?
All I wanted to take back was, well, not take it back. I just wanted to revise that I do love recording. I do. It's just, of those 4 things that I mentioned, that was my least, because it was like, I love touring and like playing shows so much, and I actually like practice, and I like songwriting too. Recording, I thought about what I said later, and I was like, man, you made it sound like I did. And several people contacted me.
Well,
okay.
I thought about what you said, and I realized there were some frustrating moments recording in the early days with the Milkmen, but
tape.
I want to, yeah, with tape, because the way we did it was we all did the basic tracks, and then we would usually do 3 or 4, and then listen to them, and then pick one. And it was always the one I thought was best was the one we didn't pick. Although when we go back and listen to it, because I'm listening to my guitar or whatever. Although I couldn't tell you why now. You should cut that part out.
Yeah. So that's it. Yeah,
I still loved it.
I get anxiety with it, but I do love it. I just, you know.
Okay.
That's all. All right.
All right, dear viewers, that's the end of questions for this week. Leave your questions down below, and in a future show, we'll try and answer as many as we can.
Future show.
Tito, I'm out of Jesus juice. I'm out of Jesus juice, Tito.